Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of Iron Port. This program is proudly brought to you by Serene Insurance, Guelk PLC, Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Link, Meridian Port Services, and Phoenix Insurance. Our proud media partner is the Business and Financial Times. So this week we are discussing the fisheries regulatory and management regime in Ghana, and we had in the studios some two experts to discuss this particular subject. Let's take a listen.
Would you say, from where you said that currently our fishery sector is fit for purpose and that we are making the most out of it?
Our fishery sector is currently in the operating room. I would say that our fishery sector really was bedeviled with a lot of challenges, and our small pelagics, that is what we call, the sardinelles or the herrings, the anchovies and the rest were in the state of near collapse. But we can all see that there's been a lot of interventions, with one key one being the close season, an attempt to reduce the number of vessels going into sea. There's been a reduction in the number of trawl vessels. Canoes are being registered and licensed. So we are moving away from that point where the fisheries was being rushed to the hospital, and now we are actually in that hospitalization state where a series of interventions are all being put together to ensure that we move out of the dire situation that we find ourselves in. So I would say that I see a lot of progress having been made in the past 3 to 4 years compared to 5 years ago. So I wouldn't say hope is lost. I can confidently say that Ghana's fisheries are in surgery, and we hope for a good outcome.
Well, let me come into the studios and engage Mr. Matthew and find out from you what you make of our current act, that's the Fisheries Act.
Well, I think that we need to appreciate where the act is coming from. The Fisheries Act takes its root from the Constitution Article 269, which requires that on the commencement of Parliament, they were supposed to establish various commissions for natural resource sector, and one of the commission was the Fisheries Commission. And so the Act 625 is the second. There was an earlier Act that established the commission. So the 625 is the second one, which was promulgated in 2002. And what the Act was basically supposed to do was to establish a Fisheries Commission. And so it does establish a Fisheries Commission. And so if you look at the Act itself, there is establishment of the Fisheries Commission in the Act and define who members of the commission should be. And then there is also committees of the commission, which includes settlement committee and all of that. Then there is the secretariat of the commission, which was supposed to be headed by the director of fisheries. And then you have the Fisheries Development Fund that was set up. Then there were conservative measures in the Act. For instance, 88 and 93 discusses issues of pollution and managing the marine environment. And then there are issues of conservation, so it defines who should own vessels and all of that. And then you have enforcement from, I think, Section 94. You talk about enforcement, you talk about settlement issues, appeals issues, and all of that. So the Act actually establishes a commission. It shows what the commission should do, but it is inadequate in itself. Even now, when you rewrite a new law, you need to write a new law that still establishes a commission. But you need to write a number of regulations to be able to regulate how the commission functions in order that we are able to manage the fisheries properly. Because an act in itself will only establish the commission per the provisions in the Constitution. But what you would need now is to have a regulation as to how you have to regulate the fishery sector and do so properly, so that the challenges that Doc was enumerating may be dealt with.
We have vast potential in this particular sector that we have not been able to harness. Now, from your standpoint, how are we going to be able to harness these opportunities?
We have so much potential. especially because we've been over-reliant on what we call capture fisheries, what we can get from our water bodies. The issue currently that is on the table, and for me as someone who also offers training and extension services privately in aquaculture, is that, as Rishta said, we don't have regulations spelling out, for example, how many people are we allowing to go into aquaculture, say, per year, or in terms of production volumes or statistics, what's the maximum tonnage of say, tilapia that you can have or harvest from your cage. So we are having issues where we have a lot of water bodies with untapped potential, again, because we've not been able to carry out a lot of research into the viability of such areas. And then we also need to look at what we call the carrying capacity of some of these water bodies, because if you take a look at what we call the Head Pond, okay, so the Head Pond is currently facing high levels of eutrophication or nutrient load, which is causing a lot of aquatic weeds to proliferate, because there were a lot of cage farms in that area. So the waste from the fish and uneaten feed ends up enriching the water. Okay, so what's the regulation saying? That you can only have X number of cages or Y number of fish in this particular water body at this particular time. And then, while we also want to promote aquaculture, what's the capacity for highly qualified extension officers to offer advice? We currently have a lot of amateur fish farmers picking up their experience from YouTube, and they run into a lot of problems. And when they contact us and we try to give them the right, scientific, sound, proven advice, they will tell you, "Oh, I saw this thing on YouTube, and so I'm doing it." And then they always run into problems. Back again to pollution. What's the state of our coastal water bodies if we have bivalves? Currently, I have a few of my colleague researchers who are malacologists. That is, they are working on shellfish, specifically oysters, to map out areas that are pristine or good enough, to set up, for example, oyster culture facilities. But it turns out that a lot of the coastal water bodies are unsuitable because they are polluted with different kinds of pollutants, both nutrients from farms, both pesticide, weedicide, and again, the almighty heavy metals and other things from mining. So what are the rules that are regulating, the rates of discharge? We have facilities that are just discharging their waste or effluents into some of these water bodies freely without any repercussions whatsoever. So even though there's a lot of potential, even for us as scientists to do more research, we are also being hampered by some of these antagonistic processes that are sort of putting a cog in the wheels of the things that we do. Because if we promote aquaculture in such coastal water bodies, how many of these water bodies have water that is of good enough quality for us to even farm some of these species in?
All right, so I just want to find out from you how you think we're going to be able to manage our fisheries resources to the extent that we can benefit everybody and to improve the socio-economic well-being.
We are looking at what we are calling the ecosystem-based approach to fisheries management, which is what Ghana is actually working with. And this is that we are not just looking at the fact that we should have enough fish to eat, but then the livelihoods of our fishermen, as well as the environment itself, should be taken into consideration. So a key example of this is that while we would implement for the closed fishing season, while we would advocate for the closed fishing season, while we would advocate for fishing gears to be regulated and exact dimensions to be put forward, not just saying, "Oh, you cannot use this net," but what size of net? Because fishers have also adapted or modified their fishing nets to enable them get as much fish as they can. Okay, so while we are looking at how best we can get enough fish so that the future is assured, what are we doing about the livelihood of the people, the fishermen themselves. And that leads us to what we call blue justice. Is there equitable distribution of amenities or resources? And what is coming from the ground right now is that the fishermen are saying that they need cushions for the close season. They want insurance policies. Whatever relief items that were distributed to them may not be enough. A few sacks of rice or a few bottles or jars of cooking oil may not cut it. But we really need to press forward with the alternative livelihood strategies, and even again, climate change mitigation and resilience, because we are losing a lot of fishing villages and landing beaches, even to the impact of rogue waves. So a few landing beaches don't exist anymore.
Sometimes when we need consultants to deal with issues pertaining to our sector, that's the fisheries sector, we find the European Union and other foreigners appointing some of these consultants for us. What do you think we should be doing? Do you think that is the right thing to do, or we have the requisite expertise in our country to be able to turn things in this industry or in this sector around?
Thanks, Ken. You are just talking to a fantastic consultant in DOC.
Yes.
Last time you have Prof. Ayato here. One other time you have Prof. Nunu.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Also here.
The other time we spoke with Prof. Ahito as well.
Yeah, you had Dr. Kamaldeen.
Yes, absolutely.
I know people like Professor Agrifin and many others.
Yes.
In fact, all the three major universities, UKN University, UCC, Legon, and EW have very good scientists when it comes to the science bit of the fisheries sector. Who have interacted with our people. What do consultants do? They pick information from people and put them together and advise as to what the challenges are, how those challenges could be resolved, and the way forward.
Yeah.
And so you basically have a lot of learned people, high level, the academia, who have done series of research and could do anything. If it comes to writing the law, you have expert professionals.
Right.
Like I said, you have someone like Dr. Kamaldeen in your studio.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's a fantastic marine lawyer. He understands basically everything. We used to have this man, Prof. Chimeni, who had traveled extensively. We have people like Dr. Rashid,
super maritime expert,
and others. You have Prof. Apalo. So you have basically all the resources that we need in this country, and we don't need to look to you. But what the challenge is the dependency syndrome.
Right.
Because if the people are the ones giving you the money to do the things you need to do in your country,
they'll dictate.
Then they will dictate as to how they want it done.
All right, so those were some recommendations by the two experts in the fisheries industry. We have your comments next.
Derek from Tema says, great discussion on Ghana's fisheries industry. I think government should do all it can to sustain the sector by giving support to lecturers who conduct research in the sector.
Eye on Port returns after this break.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really?
Okay, I dey come.
Shut up!
Mame,
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Blow up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him.
Hey!
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance. Oh, Ajima, tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Welcome back from the break. Now, news and activities happening within the ports and maritime industry next.
The National Integrated Maritime Strategy, which seeks to map out workable solutions to the industry's problems, has been launched. Another goal of the strategy is a strong blue economy that not only creates a substantial portion of national income, but also raises people's standards of living. It was launched by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo during the opening of the 3rd International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference 2023, held at Bema Camp in Accra. Minister for Transport Kweku Foriesiama said the unified efforts of government, industry, civil society groups and academia in bringing to life this strategy demonstrates a collective determination to propel Ghana's maritime sector to new heights.
NIMS has been carefully crafted through collaborative efforts, drawing up the expertise of various stakeholders, including government agencies, industry leaders, and civil society organizations.
President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, doubled up on calls for maritime agencies to leverage technology for the development of the sector.
It is important to indicate that IUU fishing, for instance, is linked to piracy, human trafficking, and illicit drug and weapons smuggling. I thus urge the maritime law enforcers to consider using technology to break the vital link between these crimes and criminal syndicates.
He expressed worry over inaccurate reportage damaging Ghana's reputation so far as maritime security is concerned.
The fact that some ship owners reported a few unverified petty theft incidents at anchorages could not be equated to piracy in the context of international maritime law definition.
The Port of Takoradi has commissioned a workshop facility for the Ghana Inshore Fishermen Association, GIFA, in New Takoradi, situated within the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis of the Western region. The facility features amenities like a tools room, changing room, machine shop, Ministry of Food and Agriculture Department, and GIFA offices, as well as a conference room. The Regional Director of Fisheries for Greater Accra, Hannah Ijebuachi, commended GPHA for the initiative aimed at offering both social and economic advantages to stakeholders within the sector.
Fisheries Commission,
GIFA's representative Eric Kofi Otu mentioned that the workshop would boost productivity and ease the burden of fishermen who traveled long distance for operations at odd hours to start fishing expeditions. The director of Takoradi Port, Peter Amobediako, expressed the port's commitment to enhancing the fisheries sector. He encouraged the community to take an active role in maintaining the facility by contributing through levies rather than relying solely on government support.
One of the things that we lack is a maintenance culture. The idea about this is say if you and phobia no apofo we had the association for us will be a could you one city. Say ade we any idea. What the monkai boat owners or monkai canoe owners no be any one city and not to see a cambumness in front to painter any.
The Western Regional Minister, Honorable Kwabena Dako Mensam, entreated the fisher folks to consider diversifying their activities by participating in aquaculture.
In the Fisheries Ministry, what are other opportunities? What are our friend aquaculture?
As part of efforts to retool the Port of Tema, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has taken delivery of a set of 27 tele trucks and 2 cranes, which will be put to use immediately. In addition, the authority also expects delivery of 10 laden reach stackers in phases between October this year and February 2024. The logistics manager at the Port of Tema said the investment in this fleet of equipment, which cost over $6 million, is geared towards improving service delivery at the port.
Just behind me is a tele-truck. In fact, it used to be for construction, but GPHA has managed to turn it into a port equipment. With addition of these equipment, it's going to help us increase our service to clients and make them appreciate our efforts to make sure we give quick service delivery in their receipt of cargo.
Processes leading to the construction of the Port of Keta are progressing steadily with the commencement of the environmental and social impact assessment. The director in charge of the Keta Port project, Dr. Alexander Dusey, has led a team from the Coastal and Reclamation Engineering Services Ghana Limited, who are the consultants for the environmental and social impact assessment, to the project sites ahead of their work. The consultants will be engaging stakeholders in the Volta region for the next 6 months on both the positive and negative impacts of the project. Earlier, the director in charge of the Keta Port project led a senior management team from the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority together with the consultants to pay a courtesy call on the Dufia of Keji, Dogby Joachim Akulache I, where the latter were introduced to him.
So I would like to welcome all of you today. I know consultants who have been selected for this impact assessment. We definitely work with the community. That's why I invited my elders, are always here, so that they can also explain some of these things to the people and also cooperate with you.
The Municipal Chief Executive for Keta, Emmanuel Gamega, pledged his support and that of the municipality to the consultants to ensure a successful environmental and social impact assessment.
I am going to encourage my people to freely vouch information, to freely cooperate with them, and then
even accept them into their homes.
The technical manager of Coastal and Reclamation Engineering Services Ghana Limited, Matthew Baker, explained the scope of work they will be carrying out.
Going into the communities to find out what everyone's views on the project, what their concerns may be, what their expectations are, so that we can build those concerns, expectations into the impact assessment.
The director in charge of the Keta Port project, Dr. Alexander Dusey, was optimistic of the project's coming to fruition and the important role of the environmental and social impact assessment.
This is a very important step for us. Without a completed report, which includes the environmental impact assessment and the feasibility study, you cannot get a credible investor.
It's now time for some international ports and maritime news.
The financial cost of building an ammonia-powered gas carrier is poised to outstrip that of an equivalent gas carrier by a staggering 50 to 130% over the forthcoming years. The estimate built upon findings from interviews with actors across the ship finance space, including banks, funds, private equity firms, lessors, export credit agencies, and public investment banks, carried out by the Global Maritime Forum as part of the Nordic Green Ammonia-Powered Ships project.
It's now time for the word of the day. Break bulk. Break bulk refers to loose, non-containerized cargo stored directly into a ship's hold. We have the schedules of vessels in the port, those at anchorage and those expected in the coming week, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rates you need to know to clear your goods from the port. That's all for this week's episode of Iron Port. Thank you for watching and thanks to the entire crew. Join us same time next week and don't forget to follow us on our social media handles.